Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger and my friends. The big Season 2 patch for Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is now live, and a lot of things are very different. This ain't no small patch of little to low consequence. This is a big deal patch, and a lot of characters are getting big changes. Now, not everyone's getting big changes. You know, some characters needed buffs more than others. Let's put it that way. And those characters are getting buffs, thank God, right? And some characters probably need to be toned down a little bit, and those characters getting toned down. And then a lot of people are somewhere in the middle. But that said, I think this is an excellent patch for the game. And also, the rules of the game are sort of fundamentally changing. Because besides the character-specific changes, how things used to work don't necessarily work anymore in the same way. So before we get to the character-specific stuff, we're going to talk some of the universal changes, because there's some big deal changes. So naturally, I'll have timestamps so you can skip forward to whatever makes sense for you. Please leave a like for timestamps. This is a very long video and takes a very long time to make. Likes are very appreciated. And now let's start with some of the universal changes. So by far the biggest change, and by a lot, is changing how rev arts work, your EX moves. So now, notice here, Mr. Salvatore, I'm going to give him the old bop. And he rolled out. What? So you can now roll out of an EX move just like any other regular move. So EX moves, generally speaking, almost across the board, would cause a hard knockdown. And before you start getting up and you're feeling, well, wait a second, that ruins my character's Oki, that ruins my character's... This changes for everybody. There's no character that's not affected by this change. The fact that everyone can now roll out of everything is... It just kind of changes the face of what the game is. Now, it's not to say there's no more hard knockdowns. Like, a basic throw is always still a hard knockdown, no matter what. And some characters have better basic throws than others. And a rev blow is still a hard knockdown no matter what as well. So if you use a basic throw or if you use a rev blow, you can guarantee that the knockdown, there's a hard knockdown, there's no rolling, they have no options other than just wake up block or wake up reversal. And many supers are still hard knockdowns as well. So there's still avenues to get the hard knockdown, but otherwise, if you get hit, you can try to roll out now. The regular EX move is not enough to cause a hard knockdown in and of itself. So there's 4 kinds of rolls. There's 2 kinds of rolls forward, 2 kinds of rolls backward. So the defender has a lot more options, which basically means there's going to be a lot more neutral play and a lot less set play. And again, yes, I know it probably affects your character, but again, yes, it affects every character. This is a universal change and a pretty major change to how the game's played in general. Now, another major change for just how the general rules of the game work is invincible moves in overheat. Overheat's not ideal. It's not a state you want to find yourself in. You're closer to losing the game if you're in overheat, right? And now you're even more closer to losing the game if you're in overheat because of this change. So certain moves, like say your supers, right? If you do a super in overheat and a super is invincible, it will remain invincible. That's normal. That's unchanged. However, many moves, say like, you know, a dragon punch style move or reversal style move that's invincible out of the gate, these will no longer be invincible if you're in overheat. So note here, Vox, right? Invincible, it says. We have here Mai. Invincible, it says. Now let's put them both into overheat. Are both in overheat? And now, oh, it doesn't say invincible anymore. Doesn't say invincible anymore. That's not good. Now again, supers, things that cost meter, those can remain invincible. But meterless reversals go away now when you're in overheat. So that makes overheat just that much more insanely deadly and risky to be in, because you have now lost some major defensive properties. Again, this is across the board. This is for everybody. As soon as you're back to normal, you get your invincibility back. But basically, watch out. Don't go in overheat. It's not good for you. Another change made to reversal style moves, specifically those that are not necessarily always invincible, have air invincibility and are break cancelable. So, for almost everyone in the game, with a few exceptions, which I'll mention here, almost all of them, if you start a combo with a break, like say someone's jumping at you, right? Oh, I got you. And then I'll break my invincible to air attacks move and then keep a combo going. You're gonna scale the combo more than it used to be before. So it's not like you're not going to get damage. You're still going to get damage, just that damage is going to scale a lot harder than it did before. There's just too many variables of like it being very safe, very low risk, you know, too much advantage to anti-airing, right? So you can still anti-air, still break cancel an anti-air move, still get a combo, but across the board, except for Jenny, Mr. Big, and Salvatore, you're gonna do less damage. Those are the only 3 examples where their damage will be unchanged. Again, this is universal for the entire cast, universal for the rule set of the game, so I'm not going to bring this up in every single character section, because every single character that has a reversal, this is a change that if the reversal is braked, they'll do less damage in a juggle. And one final thing before we get to the characters properly is that the notes will be linked in the video description, naturally, so you can check it out for yourself. And some of the notes, to be frank, are a little unclear. Sometimes they'll say something and I'll compare it side by side, the new build versus the old build, and like, oh, this went farther. And I'll say, yeah, if you say so, because it's probably only a couple pixels. It's indeterminable at best. So in this video here, I'll be covering things I can definitively prove have changed. And for everything else, and especially like the little minor things like the bug fixes, it's all in the notes, so check it out for yourself. And keep in mind the language could be a little odd, so some things actually mean the frame data change even though it doesn't say it, and I'll try to point that out as best that I can. That said, let's move on to Rock. So Rock, one of the 2 faces of the game, and he's got a pretty oddball assortment of changes. Like 1, back throw. So back throw now is much more advantageous. And keep in mind, back throws and throws in general are hard knockdowns, right? Much more advantageous. But you're also quite a bit further away from them, right? So it's interesting. That's a change. On block, close heavy punch leaves you closer to the enemy, and also -5 now instead of -1. Like ideally, you're going to want to feint it anyways, regardless, but it is more negative. Also on the nerfs when it comes to the close moves, so close heavy kick now does less damage. It does 70 instead of 75. However, it's a bit more advantage on hit now. It's +1 on hit, used to be +0, and if you feint it, then it's all the more plus yet, so it can be up to +6 with a feint. Standing light punch, the far version, now does more damage, does 40 damage, and with a slightly better hitbox. Far light kick also does slightly more damage, it does 5 more damage than it did before. Far heavy kick is now faster, so it used to be 11 frame startup, is now 10 frame startup. So that doesn't mean too much in itself other than it gives you like, you know, a button to press that's a little bit faster. A few edge case scenarios, like say you get a counter hit with his EX Rage Run, right? The low, that's +10, which means it'll link into stand heavy kick. And stand heavy kick is super cancelable. So it can't go into specials, but it can go into supers. So say you get that counter hit confirm, like you can get a decent chunk of damage off it. It's like an edge case thing, but it's doable now when it wasn't before. Crouch light punch does a little bit more damage, does 5 more damage. Crouch heavy punch does 10 more damage, so it does 70 now instead of 60. And keep in mind here, with the changes, it is a little bit slower. It is now 6 frame startup instead of 5. But as we mentioned here earlier, close heavy kick feint is +6. So don't worry, you can still link into crouch heavy punch and the combo still works. Heavy rising tackle has very slightly more range. I mean very slightly. So hopefully I just showed you the difference here. So basically it can hit earlier in the active frame in a very edge case scenario, but otherwise it's just a couple pixels more range. Speaking of just a couple pixels more range here, I'm not gonna bother showing you the comparison, but hard edge, light version goes ever so slightly further. The one thing though, the enhanced version does more damage, does 10 more damage. That's nice. And also has a very near imperceptible range boost as well. Speaking of more damage, the counters all do 20 more damage than they did before. That's nice. Reppuken, specifically the heavy version of Reppuken. So the first hit of it is now 9 frame startup instead of 11 frame startup. So it just happens just a little bit quicker. And the second hit, if used in a juggle specifically, launches ever so slightly higher than it did before. So it's something you're gonna have to play around with to see what's new and what's possible. Lord knows I'm no rock player, so I'll leave that to you, but the launch is just a little bit better on the second hit. Also, good little 1-2 change here. So Raging Storm now starts up a frame faster. And Air Shippuken is air fireballs. The hitbox is just a little bit better, and it changed how it works when you knock the enemy up in the air. So basically in certain juggles, it'll just be that much easier to kind of run forward and do a Raging Storm and hit mid-screen. Corner, you can do whatever you want, right? Mid-screen, it's always been a bit more difficult, but with the changes in that, it should be more easier to get certain things mid-screen. That's just an example. I'm sure you can do better than that. But yeah, rock full of lots of small, interesting tweaks. Seems, compared to some of the other characters, a bit more aimless. A lot of characters are much more defined in what they're going for. So, Terry's got some interesting changes. So, one of them out of the gate here, just stand heavy punch. It's a little slower, it's a frame slower, 9 frame startup now, used to be 8 frame startup, but it also does more damage. And keep in mind, this is special cancelable, right? So, just getting more damage off a pretty far hitting special cancelable normal is pretty good. So another very interesting change is to EX Power Wave. So this is specifically the held version that explodes. So it is now more advantage on block. It's +4, used to be +3, and now pushes back the enemy less than it did before. So basically you can really threaten those plus frames, go for like strike throw, whatever, and that's good quality of life. Now in debatable buff/nerf territory, we got Knuckle. So Burn Knuckle is now a bit more negative. Specifically, it just has more recovery. So if it's blocked, that means your frame data is going to be worse. In most situations, as compared to previously, the old patch, you're generally going to be -2 more than you were before. So you really got to space it. That said, it also does 10 more damage as well. So if you just even go like stand heavy punch into light knuckle, that did like 20 more damage than it was going to do before the patch. So a bit more risky to use raw, but the damage is up. That said, heavy knuckle has less recovery frames. So if it happens to get blocked, that means you basically frame-wise are even better than you were before. So if you can aim it correctly, it's pretty trivial to be either neutral or even advantage on block. EX Power Dunk now does 10 more damage. It does 10 more at the start of the move. Okay, sure. So now the Power Charge, this is the Rekka series. So for the light Rekkas, specifically, the third hit has better recovery, so it's less negative than it was before. It's still negative, but less negative. And they kind of heavily changed how the heavy version works. So heavy version was very slow startup, but it was advantage on block for the first hit now, right? So now it's good deal faster. It's 7 frames startup faster than it was before. 18 frames now, but it's no longer plus on block at the very start. So just like as a bully tool on block, it's gone now. It just does not work the same way, unfortunately. That said, you know, we lose something, we gain something, right? So Buster Wolf. So the level 2 version now has a good amount more projectile invulnerability frames. So the beginning still straight regular invulnerable, but after the full invulnerable frames are over, it has even more regular just projectile invuln frames. So in the situation where, you know, you're calling people out, you don't want to run out of invincibility and get hit by the projectiles. The whole point of the move is to just kind of hard catch people tossing projectiles. Like, oh, he did something, reaction check, gotcha, right? So now it's better at doing what it's supposed to do for the level 2 version. And the level 1 version is also changing as well. So the level 1 version, is just doing more damage. So it used to do 200, does 230 now. That's great. And also for combos, it now launches higher than it did before, meaning you can get more combo ability on top of doing more damage. So not necessarily optimal in any way, but since this launches higher, you want to get them as high as you can in the air and then get things that, you know, you couldn't necessarily get before, right? So new combo routing is possible on top of the fact it just literally does more damage. So on top of doing more damage, get more damage on top of your more damage. So for Terry, it's definitely some interesting changes. Jenny, another very interesting character for changes. So one, just her base dash. So her base dash now faster in terms of overall frames. So before it took 23 frames to complete, now it is 21. So when you're looking to do like auto time Oki with dashes, or just auto time, you know, pressure, set, whatever, it'll be that much easier because it takes less frames. Now the backdash. So one thing about her is she has like a lot of airborne moves, and the backdash is airborne, so she could go into these just from the backdash. So the minimum height has changed. You got to be a little higher now. So this is good and bad. So say if you're going for just enhanced Harrier, right? The minimum height now means you'll always get all 4 hits if you mash as fast as you can. So before you could be low enough to the ground, you might not get all the hits. Now you'll always get more hits just because, well, you're higher. And same things with like drill kick, all that kind of stuff. You're just always going to be just a little bit higher in the air when you try to do anything that cancel the backdash into an airborne move. Another change, close light kick is now more advantageous on hit. So it's 6 frames. So not that you'd ever wind up using that much, but in case you had to, that means it can link into just far lights because they're both 6 framers. And the note here, close heavy punch is 6 frames now. It used to be 5, but since it also got increased in terms of frames, so it's still a natural combo from close light kick, FYI. Now some other things, the dive kick here, forward light kick in the air. So it has faster startup. It goes and does what it's going to do quicker than it did before, but it has a bit more recovery. So even though it starts quicker, it means you might hit the enemy faster, but if they block with more recovery, you generally got to space it a little bit better than you did before. Now, it's a very silly move. Like sometimes it'll just be neutral and block regardless. Or even plus sometimes before this change. But with a bit more recovery, it's more likely to be a little bit negative. Although, with this move is throw the dice, that's your frame date on that, because who even knows, right? Although, that said, if it is blocked, it pushes back just slightly more as well. Also, I gotta mention, just because I gotta mention it. So, heavy punch, forward heavy punch, the double slap is like one of her main combo moves. If you use this in a combo, the damage scaling is ever so slightly increased. Meaning your follow-up moves will just do ever so slightly less damage. Really not that big of a deal, but what is a cool deal is baffles. Heavy baffles, the projectile, now has 22 frame startup, used to be 25. So when it comes to just tossing a projectile, you literally just toss fireballs better and faster now. So that's nice. What's also nice is the counter is now more advantageous on hit. So it is now 8 frames more advantageous on the knockdown than it was before. Also, EX counter, where you can just force the attack by yourself, right? And just smack the opponent with your butt. So that's -7, which, is not ideal, but it can be safe from some of the casts. But it used to be -24 on block, which was you're definitely dead, right? So now you're maybe eating a tiny combo, depending on the character, versus you're eating the home run swing from everybody. So that's nice. It gives you a bit more of a safety net to work with. Also, speaking of safety net, so many torpedoes is still invincible, but it doesn't have as much projectile invulnerability after the fact anymore. So that means on slower projectiles, if you try to check them, you'll get bopped. You just don't have that projectile invulnerability to work with anymore. So just kind of bringing it in line. Also, I think that it's a bit more advantageous to cancel crouch heavy punch into various moves. I can't remember if you could do that before, into the heavy version anyways. You couldn't, let me know. But yeah, overall, it's mostly quality of life for Jenny, and some things like, hey, better, faster fireball, that is nice. Moving on to Marco. So here's the change, and you're going to see this with several other characters later in the video as well. So proximity regions for close normals. Some people have it expanded, some people have it shortened. So for Marco, close heavy punch can now only trigger like when you're like literally right beside the enemy. It won't trigger any other way now. That said, though, it also does more damage now. So it does 80 damage now, used to do 70. More damage changes. Close heavy kick now does 5 damage less than it did before. So some interesting changes. Far heavy punch, big old chop, right? It is now more advantageous on hit. It is now +3 on hit. Instead, it used to be +2. So on counter hit now, that means it's +8. So if you happen to be close enough, at bare minimum, you can link like a stand light kick after the fact. So that's kind of cool. Now that's better on hit, right? So far heavy kick is now +5 on regular hit. That's way better than it was before. So this naturally combos in the crouch light punch now just by itself. You don't even need anything else, right? So if you can get a counter hit, like great, by all means. But now this is a natural combo starter just in and of itself for stand heavy kick. So that's really cool. His unique counter now is also a little bit better here. So it has 2 frames more recovery, but specifically if it whiffs. So if it whiffs, it recovers 2 frames faster than it did before. His negative edge kick, where if you hold kick and then hold it for a bit, then let go. So that now does more damage. That does 10 more damage for the regular and for the enhanced version of the move. Now there is some nerfs here. So Marco had like one of the most dominant level 1 supers in the game, right? The Hao Shokoken. So Hao Shokoken now does 30 less damage on its face. And there's more than that as well. So it has less pushback on block, and it is also now more negative on block. So basically, if you get called out, you are done. Which, again, it's just one of the better, like, haha, gotcha moves of the game, right? And just great for everything. So it's just being toned down a little bit. That said, though, level 1 uppercut now does more damage. It does 30 more damage than it did before. So if you're looking just for combo enders, take out the fireball, put in the uppercut. That's kind of where we're going. That's kind of where the balance idea is at for Marco. So now here's some more interesting things here on the Preecha front. So 1, close heavy kick now is +7. It is more plus than it was before. It used to be +6 on hit. So if you do this into feint, that means it's +8. And when you know what's 8 frames? Oh, stand heavy punch is 8 frames. So now close heavy kick feint into stand heavy punch is a natural combo. Okay, but why would we do that? Like, we could just do this before, right? Well, the other buff here is stand heavy punch now does more damage. So it does 70 damage now. It used to do 60. Crouch heavy punch only does 60. So basically in any situation where you're going for this kind of stuff, you literally just get more damage now. Also, so her uppercut, her reversal, or her dragon punch, whatever you want to call it, right? It has a unique follow-up on the heavy well, it has on light and heavy version, but the heavy version specifically, if you do this, now has 6 more frames of knockdown advantage than it did before. Also, the enhanced version has a pretty substantial change in that it bounces the enemy in combos. So if you're doing like whatever here, and then you go for this, before we just splat the enemy, now it is a bounce. So naturally, all new combo routing exists for Preecha just kind of across the board. Also, when it comes to supers, so her level 1 Hurricane Super now just does slightly more damage, does 10 points more specifically, we'll take it. And also, so her Punch Super, the red line, level 2 version, so it's very interesting in that you could break it, right? You don't have to necessarily just let the whole animation play out, although it's one of my favorite animations in the game. But if you break it, you don't gotta let the animation play out, right? So one of the interesting things is they changed recovery. So like the recovery is like instant now. There is no recovery at all. So there's gonna be like more combo routing, more potential, more whatever you can dream up, right? I'm not a Preecha main, I'm not gonna lie, so I don't know the potential that you can really necessarily get off this right now. But the fact that it is effectively an instantaneous break, like I can attack before the enemies even landed on me, right? So you can definitely get some stuff going on. So interesting changes for Preecha. Now Hotaru, one of the villains of the game. So don't get it wrong, she's still a very good character, but we're taking some of the edge off of her here. So one, just when it comes to like just general movement, her run, she runs ever so like almost imperceptibly less fast. But there is some noticeable things here, like close light punch is now +5 on hit. It used to be +6, so they nerfed it by a frame. Close light kick though is now +6. It used to be +4, so they actually buffed it. So at bare minimum, it'll now naturally link into stand light kick, so there's potential new combo routing there. So no, it cannot link into close heavy because it also has more pushback, FYI. Now here's something that sounds like a buff, but it is definitely a nerf. So her light and enhanced fireballs now travel faster. So how's that a nerf? You want fireball, go fast, hit enemy, right? Well, the whole reason those were good before is because they were so slow, she could just very easily walk up behind it. So like here's some footage from the older build. She would have enough time to not only run up and hit you, she could run up and hit you with a close normal, right? That is how much time she had to chase you. Now, by the time the projectile hits, that ain't happening, right? So you are not getting necessarily the same pressure off the projectiles as you were before. So it's basically a little bit more difficult for her to just toss fireball, run after it, and then see what happens. Not saying it's impossible now, but it's definitely been curtailed to a reasonable degree. Now we got more nerfs as well. So cortical back kick, that's her up kick, and it's been pretty substantially changed. So the light one is now -5 on block. Used to be -2, used to be safe. Now it's -5. So if this gets blocked up close, you're eating some kind of, even if it's a little one, but you're eating some kind of punish. And here's the big nerf. So heavy used to be plus on block. It is now negative on block. It's safe. It's not punishable, but it's no longer like guaranteed your turn after they block. So just everything about her cortical back kick series has been changed up a lot. Like losing a plus on block move to become negative, that's substantial nerf. Also, she's a command grab character. That's sort of one of the things, right? So, you know, she has uppercuts, she's got fireballs, like she's got everything, and then she had a command grab on top of everything else, right? So the command grab is changed. So one, the command grab itself, regular or enhanced, 2 frames slower startup. And the hitbox to grab you is now worse. Like say roughly around here, like the enhanced version would hit. Now it doesn't anymore. Like it can still hit from like not necessarily touching the enemy, but you couldn't just be kind of far away from them and still grab them. So it's both a little bit slower and you got to be a little bit closer to grab the foe. So that said, like once again, Hotaru, like, is she still a strong character? I still think she's a strong character, but many would argue she was perhaps the strongest character, and maybe the edge has been taken off that just a little bit. So now on to Vox Reaper. This is why I think this is a good patch, because my characters are getting buffed. So for Vox, out of the gate here, far heavy kick is now just better. As in, it's better on hit, has more advantage on hit, and it is also better on block. So numbers go up. That's great, especially because now -5, like from the distances you should be using at, ain't no one's going to touch you. Also nice buff here, jump heavy punch, which has like an air-to-air property where you can just bop people up, right? And now will launch the opponent higher in the air than it did before. So you can hopefully get better conversions. Now here's the monster change. So cortical back light, which is not necessarily a fireball, it's like a glorified poke, right? It is now good at actually poking the enemy. It was dog water at it before. So say the enemy's blocking, right? So it is now -4 on block. It used to be -8 on block. Like you could potentially get punished even if you spaced it decently correctly, right? So now you don't have to space it. You can use it like a button, right? It can become part of your neutral if it's only -4 on block. That's great. Now what if it hits? It's +4 on hit. It used to be -4 on hit. You used to be minus if you correctly hit the enemy. Now it's +4. That's huge. On that note, say you hit as a counter hit. It's going to happen, right? That means it's +9 now. Before, if you hit as a counter hit, it used to be +1. So realistically, at the ranges you want to use it at, you're not getting much, but at least you're getting some decent frame advantage, right? You just walk in, hit button as challenge. Like the move is now finally working as I think it was originally designed to do to begin with. So Vox has a working move. That's good. So the enhanced version as well. So a change of that is as long as the first part of it connects, even if the second part whiffs, as long as the first part connects, you can always Rev Excel cancel it now. You could not before. Also, the enhanced version is better on block. It is now -8, used to be -10. So not great, but doing better. Also doing better, his uppercut style move, Dragon Punch style move, was always very unique because it was two-parter, right? Because you had the dive kick as well. So now you can cancel into the dive kick much later than you could have before. Like, this kind of delay before would not be possible. Because here's the thing. You don't always hit just someone standing on the ground, right? It could be weird angles. And sometimes if you go for the dive kick right away, you might miss. So now you're able to late cancel it. And usually, more often than not, get the hit. So really good quality of life buff. More good quality of life buffs here. Enhanced dive kick. So he always had like a very funny dive kick, right? So now it is more advantage on block because he recovers quicker. So now as long as you space it, you can be reasonably assured, as long as it's spaced, you know, the way you should space it, you'll have plus frames instead of negative frames. So that's a very big buff. Also a real big buff is it doesn't knock down on hit anymore. What does that mean? So that means if you hit it kind of sloppy, well, if you hit it really sloppy, you're still negative, but if you hit it kind of sloppy, you'll be a little plus to neutral. But if you hit it right just at their toes like you should, oh, you can be +5. Stand jabs 5 frames. So now all of a sudden, we can get some combos. Before it knocked down, there was no combo possible. Now there's damage when damage didn't exist before. Again, good buffs. I'm not bothering to picture this one here, but the shoulder charge and enhanced shoulder go about like 10% further. It's barely noticeable, but it's not nothing, I guess. More buffs. Jumping Rev Blow. So he no longer hangs in the air as much as he did before he goes to the actual hit. So generally speaking, it'll get you to the ground like a frame or two faster than it did before. It does knock down on hit, so no combos necessarily. But just in terms of startup, you're just hitting the enemy faster now, which is the point. Also, more about the command grab. So he's one of the characters with the command grab, right? And now the command grab is just better. So command grabs, like all throws, have hard knockdowns. And now with the changes to EX moves, hard knockdowns are more valuable than ever because EX moves no longer cause hard knockdowns, right? So now it has more knockdown. So it is now 6 more frames advantage on knockdown. So it's plus 53 on knockdown now. And again, hard knockdown. So if I do this and I just dash twice, dash, dash, I'm now plus 13 in your face. Since I have those extra 6 frames, it gives me more time to either set up a meaty button or walk forward and threaten something or just do whatever I want to do. I got the hard knockdown, I got the reward for it, and now this lets you capitalize on that reward even more. So like, don't get me wrong, like I'm just selling this high because I like Vox, right? But these are really good buffs, like actually really good buffs. Vox fans, if there's any left at this point, you should be real happy. Now, here we are with the main event. Like I'm going to call for what it is. Tizoc is the indisputable winner of the patch. Now, I'm not saying he's the best character. I'm not even saying he's good, but he was by far the worst character in the game. Like, it's not even arguable. And now he's got so much going here that like something's got to give at some point. Let's just start at the top here. So 1, he just walks forward faster. So it's not by much, but it's something. Now here's a huge one. So he's one of the few characters, him and the Street Fighter characters, and we'll talk about them when we get to them, but he could dash and nothing else. Normally, if you're a dash character, you can just cancel your dash into anything whenever you want, like jumps, attacks, like it don't matter. And the fact that he couldn't did not work in his favor. Like he doesn't have one of the basic building blocks of mobility in the game, right? And now he can jump at the beginning of a dash. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but 1, when you jump out of a dash, it gives you a different kind of jump than the regular jump, right? It's effectively like a super jump, if you will. And so now he has access to that jump. He did not before. Like he can just move that much further, right? And that's definitely helped by the fact that he's got new cross-ups. But yeah, so just general mobility, that's great. Also, if you can dash, cancel the dash into a jump. Wait a second, wait a second, I played a fighting game before. There's some rules here. He has a 360, you know? Like literally 360 motion, do the thing, dunk you on your head, right? And that usually ends in up. And the whole reason that works is because when you hit up, you're about to jump, but then you have pre-jump frames. So you cancel your pre-jump frames into the move. So if I can cancel this into a jump, and if I can cancel that into, oh no. So what you're going to see here is I'm going to slightly move forward and then do my command grab. And there you go. Now, the timing is a little strict on it. I'm not saying this is easy to do or even practical to do, but I'm saying you can use this to get in from further away than you normally could, right? It's going to be tricky. Once again, not necessarily practical, but it's there. So now let's just get into a bunch of stuff here. Fire Heavy Punch is now a frame faster, 12 frames from 13. Good, although it's less advantage on hit. That said though, it doesn't affect feint cancel timing, so all your combos will still be the same. This is just the raw hit by itself. Crouch Heavy Punch now has a better hitbox and is also plus 3 on hit from -2. It used to be negative on hit, now it's plus 3 on hit. Also, on counter hit now, it's 8 frames. Stand jab is 8 frames. So if you get a counter hit, you get some kind of combo going. Also, hey, stand light punch got appreciably increase on hitbox. I'm talking like this is like a 20% buffer range. This range increase is very real. So when it comes to just poking people out, like this is good. And especially if you're trying to like catch buttons yourself or whiff punish, just like buffer a lariat in between it. And if you actually connect, then lariat will come out. We mentioned earlier, but jump light kick is now a cross up. So now he has 2 cross ups. You have the heavy punch cross up and the light kick cross up. And light kick cross up generally has a little bit less hit stun associated with it. So if you're just looking to like do this and then like scam someone into command grab, that's the way to go. Also, hey, let's talk one of the main events. So EX command grab can now be Rev Excelled canceled, just like just about any other EX move in the game. What does that mean? So that means on top of you getting the damage, you can get more damage. And keep in mind, because this is a throw, you cannot roll out, and any successive Rev Excel moves you do from this, also you cannot roll from, like, you know, a regular knockdown. So you just get a new hard knockdown while doing even more damage. So basically, you get your big home run hit. You're doing even more damage, and you're plus 44 in their face. Now, okay, now that I just built you up, right? The small nerf, so the charge heavies, like where you hit back heavy punch, heavy kick, if you use these in combos or to start a combo, they'll slightly scale the combo a bit more than they did otherwise, but that's perfectly fine. Because another thing, light clothesline is faster. So like say before, crouch light punch, right? You literally could not connect clothesline from that. And Lord knows, certain distances with stand light punch, it just might not hit in time depending on the distance. So now you can use it from combos you couldn't before, and it's just more accessible and usable in situations you want to use it in. Also, heavy clothesline is now plus on block. It is now plus 2 on block. Used to be -1. So now this gives it a really strong use case that you just charge in, and if it connects, well, if it connects, it connects, great, right? But if it's blocked, cool. Let's go into the vortex, guess strike throw, because I'm plus now, right? Before I would have been negative. Plus frames are pretty cool. Also, enhanced clothesline lets you Rev Excel cancel the exact moment it hits. So before you had to like let it rock a little bit before you could cancel out. Now you can do it right away, which just helps for combo consistency. Also, hey, how about new combos? So Hercules throw now hits from further away only in combos. It has a better hitbox when you're doing combos. So you can now use it in various combos, both the regular and enhanced version, so you can create all new combo routing. How about Active Typhoon? That's our weird flippy-dippy Frankensteiner style move, right? So one of the main uses is it has some amount of anti-air invulnerability, so if they're jumping at you, it's kind of like, aha, I got you, right? So now it's even more anti-air invulnerable. And also, the move itself connects 2 frames faster, so you're just that much more likely to actually hit the enemy. On just keeping the train going, Artemis Rex. So that is his big, like, just Russian hit grab, right? So if you break it, he now recovers from the break a lot faster. So he recovers 5 frames faster than he did before. So if you're just looking to like scam people for a break into command grab, you're now more equipped to scam people because your scam will occur 5 frames faster than it did before. So again, Tizoc's got a lot. Again, the easy winner of the patch. Still not the best character in the game by any stretch, I'm very sure, but he's eaten well. So let's go on to Kevin. Kevin's got a very interesting amount of changes, not the least of which is just his base dash is better now, as it moves a good deal further. So here, hopefully I'm comparing picture in picture just to show you the distance here. As you can see, Kevin's just a lot closer to Marky dancing in the background versus where he was before. So that's a good change just in and of itself. So now he's just got a whole bunch of other changes. Let's go for one of the big ones, close heavy kick. So this is one of his main things. You're going to see in his combos all the time. It does do less damage. So now all things equal, it'll now do 70 damage. It used to do 80. Another change here, this far heavy punch is a single frame slower. So 10 frames now, used to be 9, which again, given the relative range, he can outbuttons a lot of characters. That's probably okay. Now his forward light kick, his command normal. So the change here is if this actually connects, the amount of pushback has been heavily curtailed, so they're much closer to you than they were before. So you can threaten buttons, you can just do what you're gonna do better. Another change, not necessarily balance, but the creeper stance. So creeper has a bunch of things you can do out of it, not the least of which is like, you can do a low, or you can do an overhead, right? So there's the 50-50 mix. And they changed the input buffer, so you can effectively, for lack of a nicer term, you can slop that stuff together way better. Like, if I hit the buttons in this rough speed, there's no way it would actually read me getting the overhead, right? Now it will. So if you're just going real fast plinking your buttons together, whatever input you want, you can just get it now. It's much better at reading the input buffer for going into creeper stance into a move from creeper stance. So people with fast hands, that's a very big buff. Now that said, there is a nerf actually. So creeper low, as in like it's literally the low, right? So if this starts a combo, there will be some additional combo scaling attached to it. So you'll do a little bit less damage. Now keeping up with some buffs here, command roll. now just recovers faster. So it recovers 5 frames quicker than it did before. And the enhanced version, so what changed with the enhanced version is you can now cancel the ending of it into a Rev Excel. Like you'll get the discount Rev Excel bonus and everything, right? So before you'd have to do it, let it complete, then do whatever move. Now it can be all just one chain if you want it to be. The hitbox on high dodge attack has been increased and just by a very small amount. The Hell Rotors have been changed up a bit here. So this is the move that you can hold, right? And if you hold it all the way, very big hit, more damage than just the base hit. And you can charge it partially for like enhanced damage. The part where, for both versions, heavy and for the light, the part where it counts as full charge now happens earlier. So basically the second you see him like twitch his hand is the second you can now let go and you'll get full damage. So basically it occurs a few frames faster than otherwise would before. So just making it more useful in neutral and perhaps some combo structures. Hell Trap, that's his little kick into the follow-up. Basically the hitboxes and all that's just been improved. Active frames have been improved. One thing though, the heavy now just does more damage. So it does 110 now. It used to do 100 all in told. So just actual buff to the move. That's cool. Also cool, Hell Drops. So this is where he just jumps up and explodes, right? So these do a lot more damage. This used to do 30 damage. This now does 70, right? This, now the heavy version, now does 90. It used to do 40, and it's safe if it does cross up, because it can't cross up, then the cross up also does more damage. So they're just making it better all around, not the least of which is they're also getting faster. So the light version is 5 frames faster startup than it was before, and the heavy version is also 5 frames faster startup. So it just occurs quicker and does more damage. Also, on block, it leaves you a little bit closer, so the light's negative, but the heavy is plus on block, and if it's closer, well then, all the better yet. Especially because Kev is, a character with a command grab, so that don't hurt. Now, one of the more interesting changes is his level 2 kick super. So this no longer launches on hit. If they're already juggled, it'll keep juggling. That doesn't change. But if they are grounded, it will just keep them grounded. So I can do something like this. Basic combo, they're grounded, sure, whatever, right? And they're going to stay grounded. So I can just keep comboing, right? So literally all new combo structures, all new combo layouts, because it does not launch, can be done now. Now, that said, and very fairly, it does a little bit, it does 20 less damage now because you're getting all these new routes that didn't exist before. And there's that. And say you did launch with it, because that can happen. If you hit someone midair, they launch higher than they did before. So basically everything about the combo ability of it is just going through the roof. So some interesting changes for Kevin. So going to Billy, I remember before the game came out, I'm like, oh man, Billy, it'd be nice if he wasn't the worst character in the game, because, traditionally in like KOF, he's really bad, right? And then turns out, oh, Billy's kind of good in this game. So that means they're kind of taking the hammer to him a little bit. He's getting some nerfs. The big one out of the gate here, Stand Light Punch. So Stand Light Punch, oh, it's from a little further away. Okay, that's a buff. It's about 20% more range than it was before. But it's no longer special cancelable. So it's only a poke now. You cannot special cancel anything into it. So like Stand Heavy Punch, that's still special cancelable. But Stand Light Punch is only a poke now, nothing else. Other changes, Stand Heavy Kick does not move forward at all anymore. It recovers a little bit faster than it did before, but it has no more forward movement. He will just stay in place now. Much the same, Crouch Heavy Kick. So it retains a little bit of its forward movement, but not as much as it was before. It says the hitbox is better, but I'll take their word for it. I couldn't really tell in any appreciable way. But yeah, so basically, he's been a little bit more stationary. Now, there's still some buffs. It's not all downsides, like forward light punch. So this has a slightly better hitbox, can hit from slightly further away than it did before, with more active frames at that. Forward light kick, pogo. So this actually starts faster. So it's 1 frame faster and has more active frames. Although the frame data is a little bit worse on it now. It's a bit more negative. So the whole point of these more active frames is so you can hit later in those active frames to kind of get around the worst frame data, basically. So you gotta aim it a little bit better, although it does come out 1 frame earlier than it did before. Now there's some interesting things like a spin, right? Spin destroys projectiles. So now if it destroys a projectile, the recovery is like almost instantaneous. Before he would mostly finish the move. So it may be useful in that way to actually just destroy projectiles and clear the screen. Some other positive buffs. So Corsical forward and has the forward heavy punch explosion follow-up. So now that is less negative on, it's still negative on block, but it's about 3 frames less negative on block than it was before. Another thing that's changed is EX poke, the pullback mechanic. So there's a sweet spot to it. Basically, the further you are out, the more it'll pull in. But if you are closer, it'll pull in less. So you actually kind of want to use it like, well, like I'm an elegant term here, but like as a fishing pole to reel people in. If they're already kind of close, they'll barely come in at all. It's stated Big Pogo has a better hitbox on descent coming down, although I'll take their word for it. It's hard to actually tell. But some things easy to tell is his various supers here. They're just going to do less damage. So his punch chain supers are going to do 20 less damage, and his kick chain supers are going to do 10 less damage. So Billy definitely nerfed a little bit overall. So Mai's got a bunch of good changes. One of them, close light punch, now triggers from about double the distance it used to from before. So that's really good because, you know, your close normals are very handy to have. Now here's a really big one. Close light kick is now +8 on hit. Used to be +3 on hit. It's now +8. So at minimum, you can do this and go right into crouch heavy punch, and that's a natural link now. So it basically just gives you more tools to work with, so that's cool. Also, just like close light punch, close heavy kick also now has a better recognition zone. So basically, you just kind of do it from further away, which is great for a combo structure, because that really, really helps. Stuff like stand light kick, the big poke, right? So stand light kick is now a bit better on the recovery. So it's basically plus more 1 frame of advantage on hit, and it's more advantage on block because it just recovers faster, right? So it's -3, used to be -4. So basically, pokey move just a little bit better at poking. Now this change, I don't know if they're watching Street Fighter 6, right? Because Mai's been driving people nuts in Street Fighter 6 with the fan tosses. So her fans got buffed. So light Kachosen, now it will have 2 frames less recovery. So that just basically means she can just do stuff, hit buttons more, and just kind of go from there, right? And heavy fan tossed is appreciably faster. So basically, you do light, it'll eat up screen, you can do and react and hit whatever buttons afterwards. And heavy is just better as a zoning tool. Also, enhanced fan toss. So one change here is just for combos. The second hit will launch a little bit less, so it's a little bit of a nerf, but you can now Rev Excel cancel the first hit. So the second hit launches, but if you want to keep them standing, because the first hit does not launch, right? You can Rev Excel cancel that and keep them standing. So this opens up potential new combo routes as well. EX for Yuenbu! So a big change here is it's only -1 on block now. It used to be -3. And on top of being -1, it also has a bit more pushback on block. So it'll give her just a bit more range to just, you know, kind of bully people with her larger than most of the rest of the cast buttons. Now there is another nerf here. So Shinobi Bachi, Ninja Bees. So before you could Rev Excel cancel it when you landed. That doesn't work anymore. You can still Rev Excel cancel it on the hit in the air into whatever else you want. But if you want to do something when you land, that don't work no more. It just does not let you cancel it in the same way it did before. So some combo routes will disappear or at least alter to a degree. Now, where God closes the door, he opens the window, right? So she's getting new combo routes elsewhere. So say you get like a big launch, right? So her Ninja Bee super in the air has got some pretty substantial buffs. One, it does a lot more damage. Used to do 170, now does 240. Also, she lands from it a lot quicker. So say we get that big launch, right? Perfect. We now land in time to be able to get more follow-up. So it does a lot more damage. And now we can get better stuff. And hopefully, figure out your routing, right? But hopefully maybe you can even do better. Get like a launcher break and do even more damage from that, right? So that's definitely going to be an avenue where a lot more things are possible. And things where she gets a big launcher counter hit, like off of Ryuenbu, off her dive. just any of her big launcher counter hit stuff, right? It's going to loan her a lot more value off that. Just the straight hit, way better conversions because you're getting ahead of like the scaling you can get in other things. We'll see, but that's there and it's cool. Also, level 2 Ninja Bees Super also does more damage as well, so that's nice. And Kagero no Mai does a little bit less damage, unfortunately. But yeah, overall, I think these are pretty quality buffs for Mai. Now, moving on to Kim Dong Hwan. So there's some interesting changes here. He's another character where his just general run speed's been increased just a little bit. We have Standing Heavy Punch. So this got a pretty good sized buff in that it is now 10 frame startup. Used to be 12 frames, so it's now 2 frames faster. So that helps the old neutral. Also, Heavy Kick is now 12 frames instead of 13, so a frame faster. So basically his big buttons are just getting faster, and that's really good. And a lot of his moves are gonna be getting faster. Stuff like Heavy Ramaisen, aka the Axe Kick. This also is getting faster. So this is now 25 frames, and this used to be 28 frames. Also, it has better recovery frames, meaning it's actually better on block. So depending on how you hit it, it can change on the frame data. It's a move with multiple active frames, right? But basically, it's just always going to be better on block. And on top of that, it also has more pushback on block, so rewarding more just careful use of it. Quarter circle forward Heavy Kick, the Stomp. Also faster startup now. It's 21 frames, used to be 23 frames. Light Reversal. 5 frames, used to be 6 frames. So you get a theme here, right? A lot of his attacks are just getting faster, 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 faster. His Enhanced Dive Kick. So they changed the height restriction, so you can now do it much lower to the ground. Also very interesting, if you do it over the opponent and you cross him up, he'll automatically turn to face the opponent, whatever direction they're in. So as you can see here, if you do it like right away, he'll cross over the head. So don't do that right away. But basically, it'll always just hit correctly. And simple, but his big old kick super now does more damage. So does 10 more damage. So basically on a lot of key moves, everything's faster. This may lead to some new combo routing that'll remain to be seen. But the boy's just kind of doing better all around. And not the least of which is the gimmicks with turnaround EX dive kick are all the better yet. So Gato's interesting in that, you know, in the game now, season 2, where the forward throw, back throw is a lot more useful because it's one of the rarer sources of hard knockdown now. He's got a longer knockdown, so now it's plus 30. So you can basically just do this, dash up in the opponent's face, and force him to wake up in the buttons because you have 4 more frames to work with than you did before. Speaking of frames, Heavy Quaking Palm now starts up 2 frames faster. So it used to be 18 frames, is now 16 frames. Also, the follow-up here now does more damage. So it does 40 damage now, used to do 30 damage. And just FYI, this is the same with the enhanced version as well for the properties. Heavy Lightning Fang, that's his reversal. So this got faster, is now 7 frame startup. It used to be 9 frame startup. And this is the one that can break for launches, right? So potentially new routes for combos utilizing the break and the juggle can be discovered. So Enhanced Wind Fang and the Whirling Fang, that's the kick follow-up here. So this apparently launches just a little bit higher than it did before. So again, just like the faster break juggle here, potentially new routes just for combos to be discovered. So play around with it. Now, speaking of play around here, so other things from EX Stomp, like he has the slide, right? So this got changed up pretty substantially in that it's now completely safe on block. This was punishable on block before. Now it's -2, so you've lost your turn. You're on the defensive, yes, but it's completely safe now. So that gives a lot more incentive to use this in a variety of fun ways. And speaking of fun, how about we just get silly? So Gato has unlocked some comical aspects. So one of the things Gato can do is go into his back turn stance, and he has the counter from the back turn stance. So now counter from back turn destroys projectiles. So if you happen to be in stance and you don't want to leave, this gives you a reason to like literally kick those fireballs out of the way. And funny story, if you do the enhanced version, it is a reflect now. So that could be fun. It might be something the opponent is not exactly expecting. And just in the vein of trying to figure out new combo routing, his Air Rev Blow now starts up 5 frames faster. So it might not be directly combo related, although it could be, but at the minimum, it'll make it more useful in neutral just because it literally comes out that much faster, right? So interesting changes for Gato. Maybe not the world or nothing, But I think it'll work out for him. Now, Kain our Heinlein. Like Hotaru, one of the villains of the game, although he absolutely got hit a lot harder than she did. To be real, you're going to have to relearn a lot of new combos, because a lot of the old combos literally do not work anymore. So, like close light punch used to be +6, used to link in the close heavy punch. It's +3 now, so it definitely is not linking into a heavy anymore. Those days are gone. So close heavy kick, at bare minimum before anything else, it moves the opponent much further away than it did before. So even if the numbers weren't different, you can no longer get close heavy punch either, just because you're literally not close enough anymore because of the pushback. But it also comes out slower than it did before. It also does 10 less damage than it did before, on top of pushing back a lot more, so you can no longer get those same combos. So just off 2 buttons alone, like, your combo theory is going to have to be rethought entirely. Keeping on that note, crouch heavy punch has less advantage on hit. So say if you hit with a counter hit, before it used to be +9 on counter hit, so it could link into itself. So you can get like nice little 2-hit hit confirm and like go into a super or whatever. That ain't happening no more. So the hitbox, the use of the button is mostly the same, but you're not getting the easy combo no more. Bar heavy kick, the big boot. This is a frame slower. It used to be 10 frame startup, now is 11 frame startup. And close heavy punch itself does less damage, does 5 points less damage. But here, there is a buff here. So this is a special cancelable move, and they've changed it so you can cancel into this much later than usual. Like, you can basically cancel into this up until the animation's just like actually over. So if you're looking to do like delay specials to mess with people's timing, this is now a viable option. So that is a buff, but as you can tell, it's mostly been nerfed so far. Another buff, light fireball. So the one that goes just the regular angle for a traditional fireball has a singular frame less recovery. So you'll recover 1 frame faster than you used to. So ideally, you can toss your next projectile 1 frame quicker. So not a big buff, but it is a buff. Also, he's one of the very few characters in the game with charge mechanics, and his charge now takes less time to do. So before, charge was 35 frames, like hold down for 35 frames, hit up, hit kick, get charge, right? Charge is now 33 frames. So it's only 2 frames, but you know, 2 frames is the difference between you hitting the button early, 2 frames or not, right? So that is another buff, and it should make some of the combo structure that still exists anyways easier to do. As far as Panzer, the big charge goes like almost imperceptibly further. Like it's like 5%. I'm not going to bother to do the picture-in-picture because you can barely tell, but it does go further. The traps, so it's kind of a buff and a nerf here. So the traps themselves explode, do more damage. They do 60 damage now from 50, so percentage-wise, that's a decent size increase. However, doing the move itself has 7 more frames of recovery. So basically, the time before you can do it and block again is just a little bit longer. Now that said, the part where you can snap them now recovers faster. So detonation recovers 4 frames quicker. So placing them, it does more damage, takes longer to recover, but if you want to snap them early, that recovers quicker as well. So buffs and nerfs. Also, enhanced traps. Enhanced traps do 20 more damage each. So if you can get both of them off at the same time, it does pretty respectable damage. And his level 1 projectile super, very threatening move. So it does do less damage now. It also will not affect your guard gauge as much if you happen to be in overheat. That said, though, the much lesser used level 2 version actually got a damage buff. So that is 280 damage now, used to be 250. Realistically, this is what people are doing because it was just better. So that's going to be doing a little bit less damage now. But the level 2 version, if you happen to have the meter, will be doing a decent amount more damage. But yeah, between losing like a lot of the, like frankly, main combo routings, that's a big nerf for Kain, right? So there's some small buffs in other ways, but when it comes to like a top tier getting hit, he definitely got hit, in my opinion, anyways, a lot harder than Hotaru did. We got Johnny Soccer. So Johnny Soccer hurt a bit more than most of the cast by the fact that EX moves no longer cause hard knockdowns. Like, it affects everyone, but some people are more set play reliant than others. But hey, there's buffs. So close light punch does 5 more damage. Does 25 now, used to do 20. Heavy kick is now 12 frames. It used to be 13 frames, so it's just a little bit faster. Echo shot. That's where he just kicks the ball, right? So the projectile itself now travels just a little bit faster, so helps with the zoning. Field Dominator. This is where he kicks up the ball and you can kind of do whatever you want with it after the fact, right? So both of these, light and heavy, start up faster. The light version starts up quite a bit faster, actually starts up 5 frames faster. And the heavy version starts up 2 frames faster. So basically, if you're just looking to get projectiles on the field, they're both quicker and better at their job. Also, his hidden gear, not that it matters too much, it's safer on block, although you're still going to get blown up if it gets blocked. Don't worry about that. So for Johnny Soccer, not too much in the way of changes. So Salvatore Ganachis. There's a few things here. Some are bigger than others, but one out of the gate here. Close heavy kick is now 3 hits instead of 2. The only difference I really noticed this makes is it makes damage scaling get a bit more severe, I guess, because there's literally more hits now. So it will scale an extra hit if it's done in a combo. Other than that, that happened, so I'll report the change. So here's a bit of 2-in-1. So stand, light punch. Now hits from just a little bit further away than it did, which is cool. Just paired with the fact far heavy punch, the old double puncher here, right? This now will not push back the enemy as much as it used to before on hit. So basically, if you hit this, it should be just a little bit easier to get a jab after the fact. That said, though, crouch light punch is still basically the better option, but it's there. Standing heavy kick is now 11 frame startup, used to be 12, so it's just 1 frame quicker. Also on that note here, crouch heavy kick is now 9 frame startup, used to be 10, so a couple moves are just getting faster. So for combo routing, one of the big changes here is enhanced stomp, which is the launcher, right? And of course from here, you know, he's got a bunch of different routes you can go for, right? So you can now Rev Excel cancel the first hit. So you can cancel into something else and leave the opponent standing. Now, as for particulars of combo routing, that's on you, figure it out. But that is definitely interesting, and it's not something he could do before. So now here's some interesting stuff, the flight. So this is obviously one of the more wackier things about the character. So flight now, especially heavy flight, moves forward a bit further and faster. And now specifically, the enhanced flight launches a lot. I mean a lot higher. So if you're looking for like big combos and all that kind of stuff, like it launches so high, if you swim right away, it won't even hit, right? And conversely, it's now easier to chain multiple swims together. So another route for potentially more combos. Also, hey, just swim itself, right? Especially the EX version. So swim now has a bigger hitbox and has more active frames. So it's basically just easier to actually connect with this move. So that's really cool. And this is for the enhanced version as well as the EX version, just the EX is a little bit better. And EX also launches just a little bit better as well. Also dive, where you just fall to the ground, right? So that now happens 2 frames faster than it did before. So before it was a 14 frame startup, it is now a 12 frame startup. So if you're just looking to fall from the sky on someone, he can literally do that a little bit better. Also, enhanced dive is even faster yet. So this was 14 frame startup like before. The enhanced version is 10 frame startup. Also, both versions recover just a little bit quicker. So I'm not going to say they're safe on block, because they're not, but they're safer on block. Now, Hokutomaru, he's interesting in that it's a bunch of nerfs, yet also some side grades that let him do new things. So for one, he just walks backwards, specifically a bit slower. It's about 10%. But yeah, so let's just go through here. So close light punch. So close light punch now has to be closer to trigger. So before you can get this from absurdly far away, now you actually have to be close to them to get it. Close heavy punch is no longer neutral on regular hit, it's now -1 on hit. Close light kick is now +6 on hit, used to be +7 on hit. So stand jab, far jab does 5 more damage. So it used to do 30, now it does 35. Crouch light kick, now 6 frame startup instead of 5. So just a bunch of his more annoying quick normals, you can tell just being nerfed a little bit here. On that note here, enhanced shuriken. So enhanced shuriken is just a little bit slower to toss out. Used to have 14 frame startup, now has 15 frame startup. Also, it is no longer plus on block from point blank. So before, this used to be +2 on block. It is now -1 to -2 depending on how it hits. But same here. Anti-air EX Shuriken is also now a frame slower on startup. Other changes is old mule kick, the drill kick here. So this actually is a frame faster, which is good, but it's been nerfed in that it has more recovery. So no matter how you swing it, you're going to have less advantage on hit. On block, the Rev Art version of Zenaiken, the X is Zenaiken here. So it does more pushback on block. And if it were to connect, it actually does a bit more damage. So it does 10 more damage if it actually connects. So now let's get to some of the more positive things here, I suppose. So Dragon Punch Motion Kick, big flip where he just kind of flips over and can bop you, right? The heavy kick version. So this is plus on block now. It was not plus on block before. So now he has a different on-demand plus move. So it's not the Shuriken, which has a lot more overall uses. But if you do this and you block it, he's +1. Also, he does it. It does 20 more damage than it used to. It used to do 70 damage, now does 90 damage. So all in all, it's a pretty good buff. And the enhanced version of the move, 4 frames faster startup, does 30 more damage. Used to do 70, it does 100 now, right? So what's the deal here? Well, this one is still plus on block, but it's less plus on block than it used to be. So there's no differentiator in the terms of frames you get. So, okay, it does more damage to hits, but here's the thing. If it hits, it's also more advantage. So now I can do a combo and go into crouch jab, which is a 4-frame move still. Not some giant combo with like multiple Rev Excels, but what it is a pretty okay damage for a very low investment of meter. So that's not bad at all. Now let's get silly again. Hey, remember how he has those teleports, right? So what if I told you that the enhanced one can now cross up? What? I don't know if you needed that. But yeah, now if you try to walk under it or run under it, whatever, it can hit you as a cross up, which is maybe problematic. But for Hokutomaru, definitely some nerfs, but you know, opening up new combo routes is not bad at all. And gimmicky cross up teleport, sure, what? I'm not gonna block that, I'll tell you that. Now, a lot of the Season 1 DLC characters don't have many changes, but they have interesting changes. So for one, Andy, his non-standard projectile basically works like this. The Light Punch version now has less active frames, meaning it's out there for less as long. And the Heavy Punch version has more active frames, so it's out there for a bit longer to hit. Cool. Now here's an interesting change. Stand Heavy Kick now has a vacuum effect. So it's +3, used to be +4, so it's 1 less advantage frame, but it brings you in. So it's basically immediately guess strike throw, right? Like, that's interesting. Also, his reversal Light Punch version is 1 frame faster. It's 5 frames now. And everything he does with the flips is basically better. So flip kick, right, is now always, it's just better. It's always going to be like 2 more frames ahead of whatever it is before. So say right now, okay, this was -2. Okay, so before that would have been -4. Now if I hit it meaty, +5, it would have been +3 before. So it's always more plus, no matter what. Even if it's negative, it's always just more advantage on hit or on block than it would have been otherwise, because they changed how the landing recovery works. So another option is the cross up. So the cross up's been changed so it always has more advantage. It's actually difficult to not make it advantage on block now. Like, the worst you can do is like accidentally like make it neutral on block. That's it. Otherwise, it's always gonna be plus. So that's really good. And the enhanced version that just teleports you wherever you are, that's always plus no matter what if it's blocked. So, okay. Like, the numbers are starting to work out in Andy's favor, right? And I'll give you another one here. Enhanced Slide. So Enhanced Slide is now much more safe on block. It's not necessarily fully safe depending on the character, but more safe. And for, say, like the regular version after throw, very easy to get it hit just very meaty after the throw as well. And keep in mind, throws are a hard knockdown, right? So not many changes for Andy, but they're all good changes. Ken. So the biggest change, this is the same change Chun Li has, is what Tizoc has, but better. So before, the Street Fighter characters, they could dash, and it was Street Fighter rules, not City of the Wolves rules, right? So they were locked into their dash. Now, you can cancel the beginning, only the beginning. If you commit to the whole dash, you cannot cancel it after the beginning. But you can cancel the beginning of your dash into a jump, and you can cancel the beginning of your dash into a move. So you can get just a little bit more range on various normals. And for the Street Fighter characters, it's not as good as what like the home roster City of the Wolves characters have, but it's damn sight better than what they had before, which was nothing. And again, unlike Tizoc, they can attack. So Tizoc could only jump out of the beginning of the dash, so they get to attack. both Ken and Chun Li. So now, what are some of Ken's buff? Well, stand light punch is 5 framers now. Used to be 6 frames. Stand heavy kick can now go into the forward light kick overhead. So it just gives it a bit more options because, you can do the target combo or you can just keep going. So just more pressure options out of it. That's cool. A big one, Hadouken feint. Now goes faster. So that means everything you would do out of it, like for feints, that just means it's always more plus. Like say crouch, heavy punch, and Hadouken feints. +1 now, right? This was not plus on block before. Now this is plus on block. That's a big deal. It's the same here. Say we get a crouch heavy punch feint into a counter hit. Now that's +6. So before, that would not have been +6. So that means in this scenario, you can link into your stand heavy punch, right? So there's more combo opportunities. There's more pressure opportunities. It's just better. Also, Ken has the quick dash and various things from quick dash. One of them is the dragon lash, and that's safer on block. The regular dragon lash is still plus, but the quick run dragon lash is safer on block. However, the enhanced one out of the run is now more plus on block, and it has a vacuum effect bringing the opponent in. So basically, they got to start guessing. Also, when it comes to Jinrai, so Jinrai, heavy Jinrai specifically, and the axe kick follow-up, it's still negative, but with a lot more pushback on block. About like 25% more roughly. So, if they call you out, if it gets blocked, it's less of an issue. It's kind of the exact opposite change that Street Fighter 6 took for balance. But it is what it is. And this is for also enhanced Jinrai as well. So not tons of buffs for Ken, but I think they're solid enough. It makes him do what he wants to do better, and the dash thing is like an actual game changer for the Street Fighter characters. Joe! So Joe, not many changes. Once again, the DLC characters have less changes because they're newer, so they know more what they were doing, but one of the big ones is close heavy kick. So close heavy kick is +3 now. It used to be +4, so it's less plus on block, but the second hit comes out quite a bit faster, so it's harder to hyper defend. As always with hyper defense, if you get called out, you're going to get blown up, right? So it's just harder to hyper defend against Joe's move. So I think that's definitely worth the plus frame you're losing. Also, the target combo, kick, 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 heavy kick, that is. So the third hit is less negative if it gets blocked. It's still negative. Basically, maybe you'll eat less of a punish, but it's still negative. And the other big change is enhanced uppercut here. Now, just like Preecha, just like, student, just like master, that now bounces. So if you can do it in a combo, that means you can just bounce them and just keep comboing, right? So more combo opportunities. And that's about it. Not many changes for Joe, but that's good. And Chun Li, there's only the one change. If you skipped right here ahead of the Ken section, I'll explain it again. Otherwise, it's literally what Ken was. So she was always stuck to her full dash, unlike a City of the Wolves character that can cancel their dash or run at any time. Now she can do it a little bit. So she can cancel the beginning of her dash. Not the whole dash, only the very beginning. So she can cancel it into a jump or into a normal or whatever, right? But you can now cancel the beginning of a dash. So it's not as good as a homebrew Fatal Fury character, but it's a lot better than the alternative, basically. And just this existing is literally a huge buff for the character. So if you already like the character, great, because this gives her just a lot more to work with. And Mr. Big, having recently just come out, doesn't have any changes to note. So that is the patch for City of the Wolves Season 2. And it's a pretty big one. Some characters got more than others, and some got hit more than others. But I think some of the biggest changes are the universal change, like the fact that everyone no longer has access to very easy hard knockdowns, and thus all the pressure and Oki situations from it after the fact. That's a big deal. So your SPG, the fact that your Rev Blow always gives you a hard knockdown, your SPG placement matters more than ever right now. So before, you probably would just stick it at the end, forget about it. Now, depending on your character, depending on the access to your Rev Blows, maybe you'll think about it because it gives you the good stuff now. And it's about one of the few only places you're gonna get it. So keep that in mind. Also, I'm sure this is a very long video. If you could leave a like, it would be very, very appreciated because these videos take a long time to make. Especially because I just made one yesterday for 2x KO. And I'm tired, to be real with you. So that said though, overall, this is a thumbs up patch. I still think some characters could have got more buffed. I think for the top tiers, some of the nerfs could have be more heavy-handed, or rather less heavy-handed, because like Hotaru did not get hit anywhere near as hard as Kain did. There's a bit of a disparity there. If you're gonna hit one, hit the other, you know, but we'll see, I guess. We'll see how it all shakes out. This certainly isn't the last balance patch the game is gonna get. But that said, my friends, that is it for me, and that is it for now. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Fatal Fury.